We'd like to give a special thank you to picosupply.com for sponsoring our podcast.
Welcome to the Homestead Podcast. You are joining co-hosts Carol and Jamie of twogalshomesteading.com. If you found yourself here, that means you are ready to take responsibility for what you eat, your family's health, and your family's well-being while living a simpler life. You can do this and have fun, saving money along the way. Let them help you unleash the homesteader within. By doing more with less, you will gain what is needed to create confidence, impact, and change in your life and the lives around you. Let's start homesteading. Let's start now.
Hi, Jamie.
Hey, Carol.
Well, how's it going?
It's going good.
Okay, so we picked our topic this week. I want to thank you for tuning in. I almost forgot to thank you for listening. We are going to talk about kombucha. And now you've been doing kombucha for
nine years, I think.
Well, who's counting after 5? It doesn't really matter, does it?
It's like, we were talking about how I got started with kombucha and that migration of trying to do more natural, healthy stuff. You know, lost our health insurance and everything. And so it's like, okay, I can't afford to go to the doctor. So what can I do? And somebody at church mentioned, well, have you ever heard of kombucha? And here I am 9 years later doing it and don't even think about doing it. I just do it now.
Okay. Yeah. And you started and you have just had kombucha in your house since you started. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, I started out with a gallon and, you know, at the time we had the 4 kids still living at home and they're Bob and I. And so then there's 6 of us and they all took a sample of it and 2 of them decided, yes, this is good. And so, you know, I only made a gallon.
That didn't get you very far, did it?
No. And then it's like, I got to wait another 10 days until the next gallon. And I'm like, this isn't sustainable. I want it.
Yeah.
I want it. And, you know, it's like, and so then it's like, okay, then we get a 2-gallon party server thingy to do a continuous brew. And we'll talk about that. Mm-hmm. By the end of that first summer, I was up to 10 2-gallon jugs at my house. And it was a process.
I bet.
I have learned how to streamline it. And now they've moved out and I'm down to only 3 2-gallon jars. And so that helps. And that was my journey of kombucha. Now, do you drink kombucha?
No, I do not.
Yes.
Because it tastes like vinegar to me. And
okay.
I don't like that flavor. Now, Rich likes it. And I'm thinking he told me 2011 is when he started his small farm and sustainability group. He had asked in there and somebody helped him through the steps of that. And he has had kombucha on and off, not like you've just continuously had it for 9 years or whatever. He has not. He makes some and then he kind of loses interest.
Or I've given him bottles.
Yeah. You've supplied him.
When he was really sick a couple times, I brought, he's like, here, drink this.
Yep. And he's got a scoby from you.
Yep.
And we have a brew sitting over there. If you follow our Facebook page, you'll see that that we've been posting about the scoby. The scoby and how the process is going. He started it 6 days ago.
Now, see, with you not liking the vinegar, if he likes the vinegar taste, that means he's just let it go longer. But so you're at 7 days right now. I would say you start tasting it just a little bit and see if you can tolerate it.
But he puts apple cider vinegar in his at the start.
Oh.
And I don't like the flavor of apple cider vinegar in a drink. I don't.
Okay. Yes.
I can't do that.
So I need to bring you some of mine that does not.
And see, that's interesting you say that because he told me that your kombucha to him tastes too sweet.
Okay.
It might make a difference. Yes. I don't know, but I really don't care for kombucha. That is not.
See, I had never read until today, or when I was doing research for this, I read that Cultures for Health. I was reading their thing about how they make kombucha and stuff, and they recommended distilled vinegar if you didn't have a SCOBY or if you didn't have starter tea.
Okay.
And I'm like going, in all these years, I've never seen that.
Yeah, I don't see it in most of the
how-tos.
The how-tos, except it was Rich started with that with the person who mentored him through the group, and he said to add that to help
the acidity. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's more of a shortcut or what, but just to make sure it turns out okay. And he likes that, He isn't into the really sweet stuff, but he had kind of started it because he wanted to get off of soda, or pop as we call it here in Minnesota. And that was, he could get a carbonated drink that had that bite, that carbonated bite, and not all the ick that comes with a soda.
Through the process, weaned myself off. I don't know if the kombucha so pretty much say, but it was like, okay, my body started reacting to, I was a Diet Coke, Diet Mountain Dew drinker. And my body said, no, you will not be drinking that. Let me show you why. And so that was one of them, is Diet Pop. And then I moved on and I was drinking regular pop. And it's not any better because of all the corn syrup and everything in it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I do come back to the kombucha and I love that. And then the way I and Bob usually drinks it, we usually put a shot of some type of juice in it. Bob likes a cherry tart cherry. So yeah, he likes it on the tart side. I don't think he likes it very vinegary like Rich, but he likes it tart. I mean, so when I do my kombucha, it brews for minimum 14, maybe even up to 20 days in the wintertime. So it's like, so he gets the more tart, but not quite vinegar.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Rich's tastes very much like vinegar to me.
Well, if he starts it with vinegar, I can see that.
Yep. Yep.
And if he starts with vinegar that has mother in it, does he? Or is it just?
Yes, the vinegar has a mother in it. Yep.
Okay.
I buy the Bragg's organic.
Yep. So I wonder how much that supply is. Well, it probably goes into making his SCOBY. And so should we start? So should we start with that? What is kombucha?
Talk a little bit about what exactly it is.
And I always basic simple term I use is it's fermented tea.
Yep. That's what I would call it too.
And one place I saw said it was black tea. But then I do a black and a green tea mix. The only rule I saw was that you can use almost any tea, but it can't have oils in it. So if it's going to be an herbal tea, it truly has to be an herbal tea made from the leaves. It can't have any essential oils added into it, like a bergamot. Not a bergamot. Earl Grey tea has bergamot oil in it, usually.
Oh, okay.
So you wouldn't want to use anything that's got an oil in it.
Yeah, I read that as long as the tea has caffeine in it, that caffeine is very important in your tea because it helps digest the sugars or something.
Oh, okay. Didn't read that one.
Yep, I did read that. I don't even
It's amazing what the two of us, the two different pages we come on and research. So that's basically what it is.
And it's been around for
centuries,
Yep,
hundreds, thousands of years. Probably it started out in China, Asia.
And I read somewhere where it was like 220 BC. That there's documentation of that. And then I read that it moved to Russia. Then it eventually made its way into through Eastern Europe into Germany. And Germany actually called it kombucha mushroom. And there's a German term for it. And I'm not even going to try to say that.
There's some words.
But the scoby does kind of look like a mushroom. Yeah. It really does.
Yeah. And it can freak some people out.
It's kind of weird looking. I don't know.
I saw a description of it. Someone said it feels like raw chicken. I'm like going, okay.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but some people freak out at the looks of it and stuff. And it's like, that's gross.
Yeah, it's not exactly the prettiest thing.
No.
But if it works. Okay.
Yours right now does.
Yeah, I was going to say ours is. And so some of the health benefits, you talked about you lost your health insurance and that's what kind of started you on that journey.
Yep. The natural journey is kind of what it started.
And so I was reading that it's full of antioxidants and it also has some antimicrobial and gut health. Of course, it's a fermented.
That's the biggest one for us.
Yep.
Was the gut health.
Yep. It's the gut health. I mean, it's a fermented drink, basically, just like your sauerkrauts and all those fermented vegetables. You do what, kimchi?
Kimchi.
Yeah.
I just had some for lunch today.
And then it also helps boost your immune system.
Yes. And it also helps remove heavy metals from your body.
Yes. I did read that it helps detoxify your liver. I also read that it helps with some chronic diseases such as cancer and diabetes.
Okay, I've never read the diabetes one.
Yeah, I didn't.
It helps with blood sugar control. That's where that would probably come in.
And so I thought that was interesting. And I had a customer here this morning for milk, and I was saying I was researching the kombucha, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I always have kombucha every day." So it definitely is a health food type. Your people who are doing basically what we're doing. Kombucha is very common in most households, I think.
Nowadays.
Yep, and you can buy it in store.
Much more. Back when I started, there was one brand. cash wise was the only store you could buy it at.
Yeah, I think it's really gotten to be a big health food tonic
Yes.
type.
And the
thing.
market, the world market, I was reading an article about it. The world market of it is huge. It's like in between now and like 28. They say it's going to double or 20%. The market's going to go up about 20% in that time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I did not read that, but boy, that's interesting.
It was kind of a dry article.
Okay, so we mentioned the worldwide market for this. Now, of course, we don't buy kombucha.
No.
Yeah, it's not cheap, and you know what's in it, kind of, sort of, but when
You really
make
don't.
it yourself.
You know what's in it.
You know exactly what's in it because you're
Hence why
the
I make
one-
almost anything I do is because then we know what's in it.
Yep, you know exactly what's in it. Maybe we should talk a little bit about what we need to make kombucha and where we might find those ingredients.
Okay.
Of course, it's pretty darn simple to make.
Nowadays.
Yep.
Nowadays. Your biggest hurdle of finding is the scoby and the starter tea. And all the starter tea is kombucha. So you can go buy a jar of kombucha at your local store. And as long as it's a good brand and you look what's in it and there's no funky ingredients or flavorings in it and stuff, you could take that home and with time, grow your own scoby.
Right.
You can make a tea, make a sweet tea, put your kombucha in it and wait a month and you will have a scoby and then hence you're going.
That's
But
what
if
I
you're
had
lucky,
read.
you need to find a friend like me that has, because over the wintertime, I don't separate my scoby. So my scoby was like 3 inches thick.
Because it produces a
new
scoby
scoby
every time you make a batch. So it always has a baby.
Yep, it always has a baby. And the newest, strongest scoby is on top. So
I didn't know that.
when you go to separate your scoby, you want to keep the newest baby.
So yes, that's the biggest hurdle is
Finding
finding
your scoby. Depending on what size of jar. I mean, I saw a recipe for a quart and I'm like going, why would you make so little? All the way up to like I'm making 2 gallon. I have a 2 gallon scoby. So, and it's almost all the way full. Not quite because you need to leave airspace. And so it's probably 1 3/4 gallons. Here in the US, I have no idea what that is in liters. So that's what I'm making in my thing. So that's your whites. And then you need, organic cane sugar. You need let me think. I have it written in my notes. Tea. Oh, you need a tea. I use a mixture of black and green tea,
and
I do use organic tea for that.
yeah, so do we.
And water,
And water.
filtered water. If you don't want any chlorine in it or fluoride, so you either buy your gallon, or reverse osmosis if you're lucky enough to have it, or distiller, whatever.
Distilled spring water would probably be
Spring water would probably be
okay.
good too.
Yep. So bottled water, basically.
Yeah, bottled water and time.
And time.
Actually, I have it down. I can make my 3 jars in roughly an hour now. But then I probably don't follow all the rules like they say.
Well, okay, so let's talk a little bit about we know what we all need and everything, but how do you disinfect everything so that you She gives me this funny look like I don't disinfect anything.
I
Okay,
don't.
so-
Washing my hands. I'm back to one of those. As long as I use soap and water to wash my hands and all my things are fairly clean. I mean, I don't boil anything.
Okay.
I just take I wash them after I'm done and I throw them in my cupboards and that's why I pull them out and I start pouring water. I do boil my water for making my tea. And I saw one place that's all it said was that it had to be warm enough to brew tea. But I do boil my tea and then I steep my tea bags for 15 minutes. Then I add my sugar in. And then here's one of the rule breakers, because back in the day when I was making 10 jars of tea, I didn't have time to sit and wait for all these to cool. And so I have reverse osmosis ice in my refrigerator. And I would use that to cool it down quickly.
Oh.
Because I
okay.
was making it 1 pan at a time because I only had 1 pan.
Oh, yeah, when you're making a huge amount
batch.
like that makes sense.
And so and I still do that. I still take, I have the process down. It's like any recipe. You start with the basic, make it a few hundred times, and then you morph it. Or you make it a few times and it's more. And now it's my recipe. And it's in my environment. And so it handles my environment. But as long as, I'm not, because I use continuous brew, I am not reaching in and touching my scoby with my hands. When I separated it for you guys, I wash my hands, take all my rings off because my rings are dirty and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take all that off, And then I reach in and mess with it. Otherwise, only once a year do I clean my jars.
I was just going to ask, when you're doing a continuous brew like that, how often do you actually take your equipment apart and clean everything? Because you've got a spigot on yours, right? It's a spigot. So
now the spigot I do try to take apart every time because you'll get a scoby growing in it.
We'll have to remember that because that's what we got going on over there.
It will plug it, and you will know, and so you will have to unscrew it, and clean out. So that almost every time I drain it, I open that up because that's how I taste it and test it. See, I'm not poking anything in it to test it or anything. I have the spigot, and so that's how I'm draining it, and that's how I used to always drain it. I'm not so concerned about that. I must disinfect every utensil, everything that touches it. I mean, I wash it. It's gone through the dishwasher. It's been cleaned and it's been put in my cupboard.
As long as it's clean, you don't think it needs to necessarily be sterile.
No.
That's what you're saying.
No, my life isn't sterile. So.
Well, I don't think most kitchens are.
No.
I think we're going to take a quick break here to hear from our friends from picosupply.com.
Family-owned picosupply.com brings small-town customer service to their online farm store. PetecoSupply.com specializes in automatic waterers from top brands such as Miraco, Jug, Franklin, Trojan, and Ritchie, as well as other products for your operation. Find your farm supplies and automatic waterers at PetecoSupply.com. That's PETECO Supply.com. Petco Supply.
Let's see. We were talking about the recipe.
Yes.
Yeah, making it. Okay, so... Now, I know what Rich's recipe is, and I do believe it takes, let's see, I've got it in front of me. So he uses this recipe here, and it takes a gallon of water, 5 to 6 bags of tea, and a half a cup of apple cider vinegar, because I said he adds vinegar to his, and a cup of sugar and a SCOBY. Is that similar to what you do? Is that pretty close? Do you use more sugar, less sugar?
Use same amount of sugar. It would have been 2 black tea bags. And 3, so 5 for a gallon. Yeah, so that's right. Same.
Close to
I double everything, and so I'm not going to think. And so then I don't put vinegar. Is about the only difference.
Okay, so this is pretty basic.
Yeah, and I don't measure my water anymore.
Oh, I suppose not, because you've been doing it long enough.
Yeah, I just kind of and I look at it like in the wintertime, I may put a little bit more water in it because it sits on a heat mat and it evaporates more. So I add a little bit more water to take it through until I drain it. I will probably lose about 1 inch in evaporation on the wintertime because it sits on a heat mat for 16 hours a day.
I was just going to say we should talk about it does need
heat.
I mean, it needs warmth, but if it isn't warm enough, it just takes longer.
It just takes longer.
It just takes longer.
Yeah, so
just like baking bread.
Yep. So it says anywhere, if you look at any recipe, it'll say anywhere from 7 to like 30 days to make a batch of kombucha. Well, I don't have 30 days to wait for this.
Mm-hmm.
We drink it every day. And so I have just plant heat mats on my kitchen counter, and I have a timer on them so that they come on at 8 o'clock at night. And so that's 12 hours. So, and they go off at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that's how I keep it warm and we're in Minnesota, and the heat goes down to 62 at night in our house.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it goes down to 64 in ours. Let's go a little bit about making the tea. So you've made the tea, you've got your SCOBY in, you get it all set up.
You have to let your tea cool down.
Yep, you talked about that, adding ice.
Yeah, I add ice and I cool it down, like you would for like yeast. So under 100 degrees or under, because if it is over 100 and probably 5 to 10 degrees, you will kill the SCOBY and all the good bacteria that's in it, and you will get mold growing on it.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to temp it.
No, use a thermometer. I still use my fingertip a lot of times.
Well,
Yeah, I know. I've done it enough. And so if I grab my pan to go pour it into my container and I'm like, ooh, that pan is still hot, then I will clean my fingers and stick it in going, that's too warm. And then I'll add a couple more ice cubes.
You're better off having it a little on the cool side than on the warm side.
Yeah. Because it will come up to room temperature. I mean, and the easiest way to do it, one of the videos way back when I was started was that she made her tea and she left it all day on the stove to cool down. She made her tea, took the tea bags out, put her sugar in it, dissolved her sugar, and then let it set. I just don't have space to do that in my tiny kitchen.
All right. So we got it down to cool.
And then you're going to...
Put your SCOBY in.
Just put your SCOBY in your jar. You know, because
yes, you can
because
do it
I'm
that way
doing a
too.
continuous brew is just like yours. You're never going to take your SCOBY out of your thing until you're ready to divide it. So all you're going to do is you're going to drain it out and you're going to make your tea, put your sugar in your tea, and then you're going to let it cool down, and then you're going to pour it in your container, put your cloth on top or your coffee filter on top and secure it with a rubber band. You're good. You're done.
Yep. Rich also puts the apple cider vinegar in after everything's cooled down.
Okay.
So that would go in with the SCOBY
Yeah,
if you were
so-
making it for the first
So yeah,
time.
especially if you're using apple cider vinegar because you don't want to kill that SCOBY either.
Correct.
And then you just need to let it sit. And in about 7 days, you start tasting it. Either be it with, if it's just a gallon jar, I would get a straw, clean the straw, poke it in there. You know how you close the tip of the straw,
yeah.
pull it out and taste it. Whereas now I have the continuous brew, and so I just use the spigot and drain a little bit into a cup, and it's like, okay, this tastes good to me. How about you? I'll ask. Bob is always the final say. He's like, nope, still too sweet. And so then it's like, okay, then you got to wait a couple more days.
So there's not really any tried and true, like
No.
it is going to be done in 4 days or 6
Nope.
days or whatever, because it all depends on the temperatures that are going on in your kitchen.
Temperature and personal preference. Whereas Rich and Bob will want it to go longer. And then temperature is thing. Like in the summertime, I can probably have it done in 10 to 14 days. In the wintertime, if I don't use heat mats, it can take up to 3 weeks. The temperature is the hugest thing. And so in the summertime, you've got to keep a much closer eye on it than you do in the wintertime.
Speaking of summer, I'm thinking I did read that you do need to keep it out of direct sunlight.
Yes.
So you want to
Yes.
kind of stick it in the corner of your kitchen or dining room or whatever. And
someplace
just
does
leave it.
not have to be in the dark. Some people say dark cupboard. It just has to be out of direct sunlight. And so I have like 2 weeks in the summertime where the sun is just right at the right angle that it comes in my kitchen. I have a window in my kitchen, and it can hit. When I had all those 6 jars, it could hit the edge of that one jar.
Okay.
And so I covered it with a towel. I mean, that's an option. If you don't have a place that doesn't have direct sunlight, then cover it with a bath towel. You just don't want the sun on it.
Anything else about the process of making kombucha? Not really. Okay, so now let's talk about it's done. Okay, it's as sweet or as bitter or tart or whatever. It tastes good to me. Now what do I do with it?
Now you drain it out, and you need to if you're going to store it in the refrigerator, you need to put it in a sturdy enough bottle that it won't explode, because it's still fermenting, even though what you're doing is you're draining it out. So you're going to drain it out of your jar. Either if you have just a gallon jar, you're going to clean your hands really well, and you're going to get a glass container, glass bowl or whatever. You're going to pull your SCOBY out, and you're going to pull out a cup of kombucha for your next batch. And you're going to drain it out, and you're going to put it in some sort of bottle. Either it be a canning jar with a screw-on tight lid. Would not recommend the 2-piece canning lids because they're metal. Yeah, that's why I take off my rings when I reach in and grab it. You don't want metals, because actually the kombucha will eat the metal of your rings.
Kombucha is fairly acidic.
Yes.
Right?
So you want to take all your metal rings off. You don't want, I saw one place that use metal, but I've always read that you want to use glass. You use a plastic strainer, not a metal strainer. I don't know if you can kill the SCOBY with the metal strainer, but I know the kombucha eats away at metal. So maybe that's why.
That might be what the problem is. Okay, so we're bottling it.
I use amber bottles with the flip tops. That's the easiest because it will hold any carbonation that it continues to make. That will hold it in, and they won't explode. I bought some on Amazon, and then I bought some. There was a beer brewing place in St. Cloud, and that's where I bought some of my bottles. And so that's what I store mine in, is a flip top, because they continue to ferment in the refrigerator. You just slow it down. Just like sauerkraut and kombucha, you don't stop the fermentation unless you would to can them in the traditional sense. Because we're not pasteurizing our kombucha, it continues to ferment.
Okay, so you do need to have refrigerator space.
Yes. Which why I have a second refrigerator.
I was reading through some stuff, and I'm like, it's all the benefits are something about kombucha. I'm thinking, but you got to have room in your refrigerator to store it. So
Yes.
keep that in mind as you're making it, that you don't make too much and you can't store it in your refrigerator. Slow it down, because if you bottle it and leave it sit on the counter,
it's going to continue to ferment.
And you don't want that. I assume those bottles would hold it for a while, but when you open it, it might be a mess.
Yes. Yep. It would be just like a pop bottle.
Yep. Because I
Open.
mean, it's carbonated. Let's also talk about the little floaties that are in the kombucha after you.
Oysters.
Because sometimes you end up with a little tiny scoby
Inside your
in your
amber
bottle
bottles.
jar.
Yep.
Yep.
We my husband doesn't have a very nice term for them. And so hence he just fishes those. We just take a fork and fish them out. They are totally okay if you can stomach it to drink.
Rich calls them oysters and he swallows them down.
Yep. It depends on how big they are.
Because yes, you're dealing with a live product basically. And so you do get those. So don't be surprised if you're drinking homemade kombucha for the first time.
Yeah, because like when you buy commercial kombucha, they don't have as many. You will see some of the yeast in the bottom of the jars, but very seldom will you see a SCOBY in commercial that I've noticed. I don't buy it very often. It's a treat if I'm out and I want something and it's like, no, I can't have pop. And it's like, and it is fortunate most of the time you can find it in almost any gas station. But yeah, so, I think I've been doing it so long, I don't even think about the SCOBYs that are growing in there.
Yep. I just know Rich talks about them in there. Oh, there was an oyster, he says, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah,
I'm that type person.
If you're squeamish at all, it could be a tough one to get over. I've raised 4 kids, grew up on a farm. I'm not a squeamish person per se, hardly at all.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's
because
good.
I can't eat. I grew up eating raw oysters with my dad, so.
Oh, well, that explains a few things now, doesn't it?
Things.
Really, you don't need a whole lot. I mean, to make your own it's so easy, and I hate to use the word, but it's cheap. It's cheap.
Oh yeah, you've got tea, and my organic tea is probably the most expensive thing. I mean, sugar isn't that outrageously expensive. I mean, especially if you're going to use beet sugar, if that's all you can afford right now, you can make it.
I did see somewhere where they talked about using honey.
Yes, that's called a June tea or June kombucha. I look at that. That's expensive. Raw organic honey or local honey in our area it's $20 a quart.
Yep, it's expensive.
And I've never made it because of that, but I'm assuming you need at least a cup of honey.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I didn't look at the recipe.
Yeah, I didn't look
at
the recipe.
Giving other options.
But if you're going to compare
sweetener,
if it's 1-to-1, like if you're replacing the sugar with a cup of honey, so you're looking at $5 worth of honey to make a gallon and a half of tea.
Seems like I would rather use that honey somewhere else.
Yes,
that would be too. My thinking.
Me too.
Yep.
That's what I do.
But if that is important to you, you can use other sweeteners besides sugar.
Yes.
If you don't want white granulated sugar, raw sugar.
Cane sugar, organic cane sugar.
That's the only thing I use in my house. I always have raw organic.
I don't always have
sugar.
the organic cane sugar. I have cane sugar is what I make mine with, and that's the only thing I probably use sugar for. On bread, maybe bread making every now and then.
You need a little bit of sweetener in there.
But
and then you need water and a SCOBY. And now the SCOBY, we did talk a little bit about finding one. Find a friend.
You can order them online.
Yep, you can find them online. I know there's a couple groups on Facebook. I don't know the names of them right now, but I belonged to one at one time when I had lots and lots of extra kefir grains.
Oh, okay.
And they did SCOBYs, and they send you a SCOBY.
I'm sure.
If you requested one.
If you're in a wellness group like we are around our area, you get on a wellness group, or even if you just throw it out on your friends, you'd probably be surprised at who has one. So I would just throw it out on Facebook, find a health group.
I really don't think you probably need to pay for one.
No.
You should be able to find one locally, but like you said, you can order them.
But if you
too.
live in Alaska or somewhere and can't get one, don't have a close neighbor, you can order one.
Yep.
Amazon delivers almost anywhere, I think.
I think so. I think you're right on that. So that's probably the biggest obstacle is finding that SCOBY.
But I found one. I had a friend.
Yeah.
But I had a place I was going to order one from if I couldn't find somebody. And because I was looking at doing the month process of making a SCOBY.
Because Cultures for Health has a
kit that has the jar and the tea.
Yep, it has all
everything
set up for you. You can always go there and get the whole kit and caboodle, as they say.
Well, and actually, you can probably get their kit off Amazon.
Probably.
If you're Prime, and then you don't have to pay extra shipping. But then they run specials a lot of time.
Oh, they've got specials going all the time.
So yeah. I mean, they're always running,
So
Maybe
yep,
once a month they have a free shipping time.
it could be. So that's culturesforhealth.com, and they have all things culture. Really,
Yeah.
they really do. Let's see. Anything else?
Well, I was going to do some things of what you can do with your.
Oh yeah. What can you do with? Are you talking about the scoby or
Well,
the kombucha? Both. Okay.
Both.
All right.
We kind of touched on the continuous brew. So, but because just off, I got some of these off cultureforhealth.com's website. It was like, if you have it, share.
There you go.
Throw it out there and say, hey, I have kombucha scobies. I'm dividing my scoby out. Anybody want any? I mean, and they said experiment with them. Experiment, with different sweeteners, different teas, but use a backup scoby. Don't use your main brew that you have. Once you have it going and you've got it where you like it, keep one. Don't mess with that one. Start another jar.
Oh, that makes sense. That you don't wreck
so
what
if
you've done.
whatever you're doing, if it kills your scoby, because that's where something may not like it and it may die. I'm lucky in the 9 years I've never lost one. I've never had mold grow on mine.
Okay.
I've had fruit flies get in one and had to throw it away. Hence why you put the cloth on top. The biggest thing is to keep fruit flies out.
Yeah, because it needs to breathe, so you can't just put a lid on it.
Yeah, no, you can't put a lid on it. It needs to breathe. So a coffee filter, tea towel. I have ripped tea towels down small enough to fit on my jars. But the biggest thing, and tightly woven, not cheesecloth. Cheesecloth is too gauzy. You're loose woven.
Too loose.
Yeah, too loosely
woven,
that the
I'd say.
fruit flies in the summertime will get in it.
Oh, wow.
And they will lay the
Little
eggs
stinkers.
in it, and they will
Destroy it. Yeah,
Yeah, they will destroy it.
Yep.
So yeah, that's another whole science project there, even beyond the homeschool mom I was. You can add it to a smoothie. You take a piece of your SCOBY and throw it in with your smoothie if you can get over the mental image. Here's the one that make jerky with it. Yeah, maybe we'll do this for Rich. I proposed this to Bob one time when I was in a jerky making phase, and he's like, nope. I'm like, okay, won't do that. You can make a candy with it.
I think I've seen that. With the SCOBY or with
the SCOBY.
Okay.
And then here's this one kind of, it's like, oh, I should tell my daughter. Use it in place of raw fish and sushi.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not a sushi eater.
I like, but I don't eat raw fish sushi. I can't say it. Sushi. And stuff. And so I was like, oh, if you're into raw fish, okay. Or if you're into sushi and stuff.
I suppose it might have the texture of raw fish, kind of.
Yeah, I'm thinking that would probably be
I
it.
don't know.
Use it as a face mask. You can use it whole or grind it up. Yeah. So it's like, oh, okay. Use it. This one intrigued me. Use it as a bandage. Put it on a wound and put a bandage over top of it to hold it in place or something. I mean, it'd be right up there with me using kefir as a wound ointment.
Yeah,
I do it all the time. Hence, put some kefir on it, guys. Feed it to your pets. This one I've heard where you've dried it and make it like a chew toy. There you go, Carol.
I was going to say, I have
freeze
heard
dry it.
Yeah. Did you read anything about anybody trying to freeze dry a
No,
SCOBY?
but I'm like going, dang, I just threw an ice cream bucket full out in the compost bin.
Okay.
I suppose
put a note on your
I'm thinking I could go out and fish now.
your vessel there and see if you
next time. It'll be a while before I die. No, it's usually June or so that I clean it. That I take the time
it's only a couple months away.
Yeah, but I won't have as much.
That's true.
It'll probably only be an inch thick back to being, because I bring it down to to just that new SCOBY, 1/8 of an 1/16 of an inch thick right now. By June, I might have a 1/2 inch, depending on the temperature wise. Add it to your chicken feed. Feed it to your chicken. Yep. Compost it. That's what I do.
I've heard of composting.
And then I have put it in the blender and I ground it up. So yeah, it must be around June because I put it into the blender, ground it up, and then put a 1/2 cup, 1/4 cup at the bottom of my planting holes for my tomatoes and peppers. Does it help? I don't know. It can't hurt.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not going to. I did read somewhere to put it in your garden and around your plants and stuff. So I have heard. I did read that.
Here it says, make craft. Kombucha scobies can be dried until they are stiff but flexible. Use as a replacement for leather in toy drums, shoes, and other craft items.
I have read that before. I have heard that before. And
Now you can't hear our producer in the background.
I was just going to say, because I think
He edits himself out.
we were talking about it once, and somebody made jewelry out of it. Now that was a long time ago. I remember Rich talking about we can make jewelry out of this. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, okay. Here,
yeah, I don't see that.
Here it
happening.
says make June tea. June tea is another ancient fermented drink. You can make it at home by slowly converting kombucha scobies to feed on green tea and honey. And that was the last one.
That was the last one.
And I'm like going, I'd read some. Oh, and in recipes, you can use it almost in any place of like where you'd put vinegar, like mayonnaise. If you're gonna.
You're talking about the kombucha liquid.
Now
not
the kombucha,
SCOBY.
Yeah, not the SCOBY. Well, I suppose you could put some SCOBY in there
You
if you
probably
blend
could.
it
Yeah,
up.
I saw you could use it for salad dressing and.
Yep. You making salad. Any place that you would use vinegar, you can use the kombucha liquid.
And I was thinking I had read that you could use it to make sauerkraut and stuff like that.
Yes, I have.
But I don't. I read that, but I don't know.
I've seen that with the kefir whey, but not. I don't know if I've ever seen that anywhere with the kombucha. Yeah, I mean, it would be try it. I mean, if you have an abundance of kombucha, but then I have abundant.
Would only be cabbage. Cabbage is fairly cheap, right? If
Yeah.
it didn't turn out real great.
Yeah. And you only you only ferment it. If you have a culture, you usually only ferment it 3-4 days, and then it goes in the refrigerator. Because I keep it 9 months in the refrigerator. Actually, I was just looking today at lunchtime, going, I need to make more sauerkraut because I'm down to like probably 2-3 inches in the bottom of my gallon jug. I'm like, but we have kimchi. I have a whole nother gallon of kimchi.
Yeah, you have got a refrigerator dedicated to your ferment type stuff.
And milk. I
was going to say, the other thing I was going to say is, okay, so now with the kombucha and when you're deciding to put it wherever you're going to put it in your house, do I need to worry about things like I've got bread rising, I've got kefir brewing, any of those other things that ferment and cause yeast to be released into my kitchen?
I have read in some places you do want to be careful of putting, if it's an open container. So like my kefir, I keep a lid on it. So I do sit them by each other.
Okay.
Especially in the wintertime, it's cold because I don't have any other place to put a heat mat in my kitchen. And so I will sit it over there on the heat mat if it's really cold. But yeah, so if you're doing sourdough, I wouldn't set that right next to your kombucha.
Because that's open.
Yep.
Kombucha's open.
Yep. Now, my fermented vegetables, my sauerkraut and stuff, I am using an airlock. I'm using a container that has an airlock on it, so I am not as concerned about that. I have set them by each other.
Okay, so wine making would probably be okay because you usually have an airlock on for wine.
Never delved into that one.
Rich does wine, so yep, that has an airlock on it. What about clabbering? Now you clabber milk, so are you concerned about your clabber milk?
I have not been because I leave a lid on it and I just crack it.
Okay.
It's on there and it's cracked, so I look at it that it's not like, free releasing the yeast and bacteria from the clabber. And it doesn't seem to affect my kombucha.
Okay, because you have a small kitchen, so
yep.
That's why I asked. Now my kitchen's big. Our kombucha's way over here. My kefir's way over there.
Yeah.
I have a lot of space in my kitchen because I have an open floor plan.
Yeah.
You do not, so that's why I was asking.
Yeah, square footage wise, I should measure it someday. The only advantage I have over you is I have 9-foot ceilings. I have cupboards all the way up.
Yep.
So I can stack it high.
But yeah, as far as putting things out,
counter space, I have 6 feet by my stove, and then I have probably another 4 feet that is usable. No, probably another 6 foot over there, but one spot has my toaster oven, and the a huge hunk of it has my kombucha jars, and so and then part of it's got my food saver on it. So there's like 2 feet over there that's usable space.
Okay, all right, well, that's good to know that as long you feel as though as long as you have a lid on anything else that's fermenting in your kitchen, we have an airlock or just a lid, canning lid, plastic lid, something that is not open and breathing.
Yeah. So like when I'm doing sourdough, that is usually fermenting somewhere else.
Okay.
Either be at my dining room table, And it's not sitting there as long. It's a 2-day process at the most that it's sitting open. And I'm not sitting that by my kombucha.
All right. So that was I just had thought about
Yes.
that.
I'm spitting too much. Heavy breather. My nose is nasal. Are these spit guards?
I'm just going over my notes, seeing if we covered everything. I think so. Oh, I know. Some people do a second ferment. Now you talked about adding a splash of juice or whatever to your stuff.
For flavor.
Do you do a second ferment?
No, I do. I tried it back when I first started doing it. Hence, my issue is space, because to second ferment enough for the whole gang took a lot of space. And just recently, I had made cranberry juice, and so I had leftover cranberries, and so I fermented 3 jars of that with the cranberries that I took out of that juice. And I did not get much fizz out of it I wanted. And so my thinking is that there was not enough sugar left in those cranberries that had already made the cranberry juice, that it didn't second ferment. So I'm thinking if I took those cranberries, put just maybe half a teaspoon of sugar in there and second fermented them, maybe I'd get a little more fizz. Because that's where you get your flavor. Anything that you buy flavored, commercially wise, that they've second fermented it.
Okay, so how do you second ferment?
So second fermenting is you will take either fruit juice or fruit and put it in I put it in my flip top bottles, but hence cut it small enough that it will come out freely and you don't have to dig it out.
Warning,
PSA. Do not shove a huge piece of fruit in a beer bottle neck, and you will have to retrieve that later, and it can be challenging.
So you want to mince whatever fruit you're adding. If
or
you're adding fruit.
Or cut it, or will it be smashed enough? Can you smash it? Pineapple is a popular one, but you need to cut it small enough so that it fits in a bottleneck.
Okay.
Like a beer bottle.
So if you really have to force it in there, you probably should cut
No,
it smaller.
you shouldn't, because you're going to have to force, you may not get it out.
Yeah, you want to be able to.
And then hence that bottle. And they're not, when I bought them, they were
cheap.
$3 a bottle.
I bet they're more expensive
Yeah,
now.
I'm sure they're probably $5 or more a bottle now.
Yeah. Okay,
And
so that's a good thing to know.
And then all you do is you put your fruit in, fill your bottle up with kombucha, leave 2 to 3 inch headspace, put your top on it. And this where you really want a flip top strong bottle. You do not want a decorative flip top bottle. Because you can buy cute little bottles at TJ Maxx's and stores like that, Marshall's, that are decorative. They are not thick enough. They will explode, I'm told. And all you do is leave it sit on the counter for 3 days and then put it in the refrigerator. And it's second fermented.
Okay, so how much fruit or how much juice do you put in there? Do you
experiment?
You just have to kind of see how it tastes for you.
Yeah, I experiment. Because you wouldn't need more than a few tablespoons, quarter cup at the very most. I can't see. Have you heard? That'd be a lot of sugar. And it's the sugar.
Okay, I didn't think of that. Yeah,
it's the sugar and stuff that makes the fizz. I think a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons would probably be plenty to second ferment. Because you're fermenting it with less than 32 ounces. Yeah, they're 32 ounce bottles.
So they're a quart.
Yeah, a quart.
Minus
3 inches headspace.
Yeah.
And that's for that fizzy.
Mm-hmm.
That's for the fizz to build up. And so hence, when you go to open them, point them away from your face.
Yes. I think Rich used to open his in sync just in case.
Just in case.
Just in case. Yeah, be careful when you open that. Because I guess we didn't talk about when you bottle your kombucha to make sure you leave that headspace.
If you're second fermenting.
Only if you're second fermenting.
Because when I drain mine, I probably leave 1 inch or so.
Okay.
Headspace. I'm not exact and stuff because it's done fermenting. It's not going to make it will make a little more fizz inside those bottles, but mine aren't. Maybe it's how long it's going to be in your refrigerator before you drink it. Ours, because of how much we drink, I bet our bottles are never in our refrigerator more than 3 weeks. Every 2 weeks, I am making a draining our kombucha, and I rotate first in, first out. So I'm rotating, make sure that I don't have 9-month-old kombucha in the back of the
that
fridge.
Makes sense. Speaking of second ferment, is there any fruit that you know of or fruit juice that you can't use? Should you use 100% juice, or can you use like a cranberry cocktail?
I think you could use anything. You know, you
Okay.
could use a cocktail. I mean, that's where you get, you know, like you look at it, lemon ginger, mango strawberry. You see those in commercial kombuchas. So you can make your own multi-flavored. I mean, if you want to be a purist, just put a flavor in. If you want to make a pineapple strawberry.
You know, sometimes they're like, well, you can't use lemon because it's citrus or something. I mean, sometimes I see things like that where don't use a citrus fruit or something, not necessarily for kombucha, but for other things.
Oh, for other things.
Yeah, but kombucha doesn't matter. So if I want to make it lemon flavored, I can have lemon flavor.
Yeah, but it's not going to be a lemonade flavor. It's going to be that is very tart.
It's not lemonade.
No, it is not lemonade because
Okay.
it's not had enough sugar or it's eaten the sugar that was added to it. If you look at it I mean, you could put a little bit of lemonade in it if that's an issue.
And herbs are okay. Can you put like mint in there?
I bet
like
you could.
so you could spice it, or
Yeah, I've never done it, but I would see no. I mean,
I don't know. These are just things I just thought of as
yeah,
we were
I
talking,
mean, especially if you're doing a second ferment with it. Oh, you're going to have a bottle. I mean, if there's a combination that you think, oh, that sounds good to me, take a bottle and second ferment it. Mint by itself, I can't see it having enough sugar, so you may need to put, half a teaspoon. If you're wanting the fizz more than just the flavor, you would have to put a little bit of sugar in it so then think of a combination that would go with the mint.
I was going to say, because I know I see a lot of people when they are making flavored water, mint and cucumber. If you put that mint in with another fruit, you probably wouldn't have to add any sugar.
No. You need a little sugar. That's where you get your fermentation going.
Okay, so if you use ginger, or do you never just use ginger and you always have lemon or something? Lemon just doesn't seem like it would be real sweet to me.
No.
Yeah,
maybe they're adding a ginger.
You'd have to look that up. I honestly don't
research.
know. I do know ginger's a very popular flavor for kombucha.
Yes.
So that would be interesting.
For those that can't hear, our producer just asked me about preservatives. Yes, I would be very cautious of preservatives that are in commercial juices. Read your ingredients. I would think a preservative in a juice that it would interfere with the good bacteria probiotics that are in it. And that's why we're doing it. We want more than just an alternative to soda pop. I would think you'd want to do it for the probiotics.
So you want your juice to be pretty much in its purest form.
Yeah. If you can't do organic, can't find organic, get it. I mean, and it's hard. I don't even know about citrus acid. I mean, that would be, if you're going to second ferment with it, do a bottle before you do your whole batch.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And then
Right.
you got your little test batches, so you kind of know how it works.
I mean, I look at that. That's my whole kitchen. I'm always experimenting with something in it.
So I think we pretty much covered what I see on my paperwork in front of me. I just really think a person should, kombucha is not something I care for, but we do make it in our house.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really good health thing, although I couldn't find any studies that really said anything about how kombucha works in humans. In lab rats, yes.
Yeah.
But in humans, I really didn't find anything that said that it was this great health tonic that they talk about. But we've been doing this for how long? Centuries?
Thousands of years.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah. And if you go Google it, you will come across the articles that are saying, no, you're going to kill yourself. Because that was Carol's text to me last night. It was like, I'm surprised you're still alive. And I'm like, I know, right? And I'm sure that's probably the first one I read going, oh, I'm not making this. Don't go with the first Google. Go down a few articles and read.
Right. The articles I saw said that, it can upset your stomach. You got to be careful because of the alcohol content, because you are brewing it kind of, and it is. But
it's less than 0.001%.
Yeah, it's pretty, because even in the stuff in the store has to be 0.1, let's see, 0.05. It has to be less than that for alcohol for it to be able to be sold on the shelf. So,
yeah,
but I did read that if you leave it too long, you can make a stronger alcohol.
So I'm not concerned.
I don't know, but that is
my husband laughed at that comment.
But yeah, they say that you can cause, if you drink too much of it, that type of thing. And the Mayo Clinic article I read was like, oh, you probably shouldn't drink it, and because it might have bad bacteria in it. And if you brew it at home, oh my goodness gracious, you're going to get bad bacteria and whatever. And if you do drink it, only drink it if you like it, which I thought was kind of a stupid statement, and if it's come from a trusted source, preferably a store. I don't know if I necessarily trust the store because I hear more things about E. coli in fruits and vegetables
Yes. Okay. So
than anywhere else. So whatever.
Here is, I know when I was doing research, the website that I initially learned off, because when I went to learn, I went to YouTube, because YouTube isn't there are people like us out there, crazy people making videos and putting them out there until somebody says, nope, that's wrong, we'll take you down. But anyway, so the first one that came up when I was doing YouTube was culturedfoodlife.com. She had a video about making kombucha. She did have like PubMed. She referenced down at her bottom of her page articles with a link to that article that if you can read that stuff, I can't, it's like, it gives me a headache trying to read research papers and stuff like that. So there are, they're far and few between.
Right. They just really haven't concentrated on any studies for that.
Yeah, because you're not making money off it.
Right.
Why else would the only reason they do a research paper or a research of anything, in my opinion, is I want to make money off this. Why would you spend millions money on a research project and not have plans to make money with it? A phrase I hear in my world is, we're experiment of one. We're in one. And so that's all my life is. And so hence you do what's good for you. And yeah, I roll my eyes at science sometimes, or what the authorities say we should and shouldn't do.
Right.
Especially after the last 2 years.
I just think kombucha is a fairly safe thing, and it's simple, it's cheap, and it's not, as long as you keep your stuff clean. Yeah, you should be just fine.
It's like, if you're cooking food and making food in your house and you're not dying from E. coli or salmonella or whatever, you can make kombucha.
Yeah, kombucha's pretty simple.
What's your level of cleanliness that you can stomach?
Yeah, so, and once again, use your nose, use your mouth.
Yep.
If it doesn't smell right, doesn't look right, doesn't taste right, don't consume it. Okay. All right. So I think we have covered everything here. So once again, you can make kombucha on your homestead.
Yep.
Whether that be in the town, in the city, in the country, wherever. I mean, it's really simple, really easy. Yep. A nice benefit to add to your little medicine cabinet or your preventative.
Yeah, I look at more preventative.
Yep. So you can maybe get rid of the.
So I don't take
soda pop.
That you can get rid of some of that bad food in your life. Or I don't take probiotic pills anymore because I do the fermented kombucha, kefir, and sauerkraut and those.
Yep, and they're much better because they're natural. They're not, and nobody's making money off of it.
Yeah, and they say a lot of times the bacteria that's in a probiotic, a lot of times it won't make it through your stomach, into your intestines where your body will absorb it. Because they're not live.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I'd like to thank you all for turning in. I'd like to thank you for tuning in and listening to our jabber here about kombucha. And hey, if you do kombucha and you have a good recipe for a second ferment, or know something about that we didn't talk about, and that because Jamie's, I'm sure, always looking for ways to use the kombucha in her house, and she likes to experiment. So leave a note or send us an email at 2galshomesteading.com. You'll also find us at 2 Gals Homesteading on Facebook and Instagram.
The number 2 Gals Homesteading, not TWO.
Oh, yes. So it's 2 Gals Homesteading with the number 2. And let us know what you think. If you have any insight, and make sure you share our podcast with your friends and family if you enjoyed this. So until next time,
put some kefir on it.
We'd like to give a special thank you to picosupply.com for sponsoring our podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Homestead Podcast's latest episode. Your hosts, Carol Radke and Jamie Kappas, are 2 Gals Homesteading. To learn more, go to 2galshomesteading.com or the 2 Gals Homesteading Facebook page at facebook.com/2galshomesteading. Editing, audio production, and marketing of the Homestead Podcast is the responsibility of Media Transx. The Homestead Podcast is an audio product of Media Transx, a limited liability company based in Minnesota, USA.